Hello everyone, and welcome to This Nintendo Life. My name is NBZ. This is episode 51, and Bali, the countdown to 100 is beginning right now.
Only 49 episodes to go.
Oh, well, it'll be a little bit of a while before we get there, but here we are. We're past episode 50, and we're back into the swing of things, back into good old regular podcasting.
And just to celebrate episode 50, I moved abroad.
You moved country, Bali! It's crazy! What's going on? Where have you gone to?
I've gone to Brussels in Belgium.
Yeah, so you're...
And for those who know Brussels, I'm working in probably the most famous place about Brussels, if that makes sense.
Yes. So yeah, you got a job, which is great, and you moved country for it, which is even more exciting. So yeah, we be sure to tell us many stories of your foreign travels.
Oh yes.
I'm sure that'll be extremely fun later down the line.
Top tip from Brussels. Always fry your chips in beef fat.
All right.
That's
why. What does that do?
Makes them taste amazing.
All right. Well, I'll try it one day.
It's the
if
secret
I have a
to Brussels
fryer.
chips.
Okay. Well, they taste good. Look, I'm not gonna lie. Brussels chips, pretty fucking fantastic. Amsterdam also excellent chips, I will say. Someone who's lived in Amsterdam and has been to Amsterdam many times. That part of Europe does chips well. So, anyway, enough about chips or fries or whatever Americans like to call those foods. We're talking about video games today, so let's talk about video games. Bali, we're doing a show. It's about video games. What are we going to talk about on the show?
We've got what we've been playing. We've got a few emails. And we're going to, for our third segment, do a little bit of a news roundup. There's been a few little things here and there said about upcoming events that are quite interesting we thought we'd mention.
Yeah, so we'll chat about that, but before we get underway, we're just going to talk about a bit of the video games we've been playing. And Bali, I know you've been very busy the last couple of weeks, but you have managed to squeeze in a bit of a video game.
So, having completed Ocarina of Time 3D, I went for a couple of handheld games on my new 3DS. First being Ollie Ollie.
Yeah.
Now, I only played maybe half an hour, 45 minutes of this game. It's really really hard. It's very similar to Bit Trip Runner in many ways. You're kind of skateboarding along in a 2D platformer setting, and it's a high score game, and at the same time you have to stay on your board, and it's really hard. It's almost like patting your head while rubbing your stomach at the same time. It's a weird feeling. And
yeah, I think the fundamental interesting thing about Ollie Ollie is the way that you land on a grind rail and the way you land on the ground are two separate button inputs, right? So you have to get over this idea of like, okay, which button do I press for this specific surface? And I think that takes some getting used to.
Definitely, and it's really weird. Like I said, only played 45 minutes. I think that it's a really fun game. It's really cool, and it's something that I think you can get better at and enjoy more. So that's definitely what I plan to do.
And you have that on Wii U as well, right? Because it's cross-buy.
Yeah, it was cross-buy. I've not even tried the Wii U version yet. I guess the save file is completely independent in any case, so I basically
there's no crossing over of those, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think.
So yeah, I mean, I'm playing on 3DS just because I like having a handheld game. I've not played much handheld.
And plus, you're traveling and moving about at the moment, so you didn't have your Wii U.
It's much better for the train, stuff like that. Just pick it up and play a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna keep plowing away with that.
Sweet. I'm sure you'll get into it, because for me, like, once it hooked me, once I understood it and it clicked, it was no going back. I just sat there forever and ever, just continuously going at levels. So see how you find it later on.
And then the other game that I picked up a while ago in a sale for a reasonable price on the eShop was Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yes, the long-awaited
So
Fire
this
Emblem
is
Awakening.
sort of the second... Well, it's the third Fire Emblem game I've played, but I'd never finished Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. I still need to get back to that eventually. But this is just... It feels like Fire Emblem 7, but with just unbelievable production values. And I remember when this game came out, I was like so jealous of like you in Fire Emblem because I was really hoping that Intelligent Systems would do this for Advance Wars, and this game, the cutscenes, the art, the music are unbelievable. I think absolutely Fire Emblem 7 and Sacred Stones look great for their sprites. I think that is a unique style that will forever be impressive and look great and always look great to go back to. But there's something about Fire Emblem Awakening and the fact that it's on a handheld. It's just the unique selling point of this game so far for me. It's really where it stands head and shoulders above a lot of other 3DS games and obviously a lot of other Fire Emblem games.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Like, you clearly see there was a budget for this game and they just went all out. Really, like, the other 3D Fire Emblem games have been on console, and this is the first one which is, like, fully 3D model rendered on a handheld. And it's kind of jaw-dropping that they managed to push it this far. It's just very impressive visually. So, yeah.
And I mean, mechanically, it does all the things the other Fire Emblems did, but it adds in its own new mechanics. So there's sort of like, I don't even know what you call it, but you can merge units together.
It's the pair-up system,
The
is what it's
pair-up
called.
system, and they sort of introduce it to you in this game, where sort of Crom will get on the back with the Pegasus. What's her name?
Sumia?
Sumia. What's Lumia? That's a type of
I don't
phone.
know. Yeah.
So Sumia is like riding her Pegasus Knight, and then Crom like hops on the back of the Pegasus Knight, and like that's the idea that they're trying to sort of, I guess, put together in this game, that you can like almost ride on the back of someone's horse, and like
Right.
it's cool. I still don't fully understand it, but I do understand sort of the, what do you call it when you stand next to adjacent to a unit and fight, and like they become more powerful and they can.
It's the same thing that you did in previous Fire Emblem games where you're building the relationship
Yeah.
between them. And in this game, right, you can do that, but pairing up is way more valuable. And originally, I was so against pairing up because what Awakening did is it removed the rescue mechanic, and that's one that I relied heavily on in previous games and thought was really useful and handy to save people from certain situations. But once I got my head around how pair up worked and like understood that it kind of broke the game in some senses. Like, if you pair up two powerful units, they can end up just being a one-man death machine, and they just tear through units without any trouble whatsoever. So that's a much faster way to build the relationship, and they also just end up helping each other out more. But you can still kind of put units next to each other, and you'll help out, but the effect.
They'll really fight for each other, can block moves and things like
Right.
that, and like.
But the effect won't be as great as if they were paired up, essentially.
Okay, right. I still need to get my head around that a bit, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think the game's been quite good so far in introducing those new mechanics, which.
Yeah, I can't
which
really
is
remember
nice.
how tutorializing Awakening is. It certainly doesn't do the same thing as 7 does with those kind of basic chapters, but
Yeah,
I
it's
think it
not
kind
far
of.
off actually from what the first few I've played.
Yeah.
I think that if I had come in having not played any Fire Emblem, it would have been a lot to take in, but I do think it would have been manageable.
Yeah, it would have been a good starting point. I think for a lot of people, this was their starting point with Fire
Yeah.
Emblem.
I mean, just based on sales, it has to have
Yeah,
been, like,
yeah.
factually has to have
And
been.
you are playing on the casual mode, which I see no issue with whatsoever.
Yeah.
There'll be people saying, "Oh, you fucking casual," because they like Fire Emblem to be Fire Emblem. But I played Awakening on casual my first time through because I've played enough Fire Emblems and I don't need the annoyance of continually going back and back. Plus, for my case, I wanted to like do everything in this game and do all the children and stuff, and it just would have been a hassle if I was building skills and everything, and every time someone died, I just have to restart and waste time. So, yeah, I see no issue in doing that whatsoever.
And story-wise, like I said, the cutscenes are incredible, but the story kind of starts with zombie warriors almost coming out of this different dimension, and it's all a bit mysterious what that whole dimension is and
Hmm.
who's coming from where, and you're just your standard group of fellows, I guess, just fighting and defending the town, the city.
Have you met Marth yet?
I have met
Mm,
Marth.
yeah.
I kind of know where that's going.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
I
but
think everyone knows where that goes. At this point, like, Smash Brothers has kind of ruined that for everyone.
I mean, though, I know zero about the wider story, so I'm still
Sure.
very interested to see how that unfolds.
Okay.
And it's nice having your own little avatar. So Bally, who's like a
Yeah.
standard brown-haired guy with a sword.
So boring,
Like-
Pally. You have to give your characters cool hair colors, not just like normal, boring. God.
Yeah,
Terrible.
I don't know. He's all right. We'll see how he goes. But yeah, so I'm early on still, but I'd love to try and finish this game before the end of the year, and I can involve it in our end of the year, game of the year sort of discussions. Hopefully.
Yeah. That'll be good.
Um,
All right, great. Well, anything else, Bally?
Yes. So you very kindly gave me a demo code for the Triforce Heroes demo.
Yes,
obviously
indeed. That's coming out very soon.
next week, end of next
yep,
week, so
yep.
not long at all. And we'd already played a sort of demo of this game at what is that event even called? We were
Hyper
at the summer-
Japan.
Hyper Japan. So we already had experienced sort of the 3 demo levels and had a good time locally at least. So this was just us having a go online. And unfortunately, with the demo, we weren't able to play with each other, which was a bit bad. But I mean,
No, we organised today to be like, okay, let's get on, let's do, because they only have a limited time window
Yeah.
for when you can play online, because they wanted to test their servers probably. And I was like, all right, Bally, we can play, we'll find another person. And I go up to the old man, and I talk to him, and he says, oh, you can't play with friends in the demo version. I'm like, fuck
friends.
you! God.
Don't play with those till next Friday.
No.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, but we both played with some randomers. I think your randomers were a little bit more skilled than my randomers.
Yeah, I think the first group I got into was terrible, and the guy was just throwing me off the side consistently.
Maybe they thought it was a
like,
competitive game.
maybe
Where you have
but we
to
have
fight
one.
against each other.
We have one health bar, so that does not help at all. So that was terrible, and then I got a communication error, and it ended. And what I will say is the thing that I'm most skeptical about here is there's a lot of lag going on, Bally,
Yeah.
in these matches.
Yep. I mean,
so...
my internet. I mean, I should say, although I've moved to Brussels, I'm in London for the weekend, moving out all my stuff. My internet in London traditionally has been up and down, so I was thought initially, oh, it's just my internet being down, and then you said yours was smooth, but then yours took a hit a bit, and then I'm sure a bit like Smash Brothers, it relies heavily on how good the Wi-Fi is of the people you're connecting to,
Right.
all those sorts of things. So who knows? I mean, and also perhaps just because there will have been so much traffic trying out this demo, maybe that's why it lagged, and come launch day it might all be smooth sailing, but
maybe it's also
who knows?
they are funneling people at a very specific time to test their server load, so that could be what they want. They want it to be
Yes.
pushed to the max, so maybe that's what's happening.
But I mean, it was running smoothly for large parts of it, and it was really fun. And I hate to say it, but those emoticons are like growing on me a little bit in the sense where, you have no way of talking to these random people you're playing online with, but just kind of standing in places saying, "Let's totem here, use your item, do this," and you can actually communicate.
I think it's fine at the moment. What I worry is later on when things getting more complex and levels are longer and you have to think a bit more about it.
Exactly.
That might not stretch
If
far
you have
enough.
to totem up, destroy part of a boss or something, then it'll reveal something. Just having a single button that says item isn't going to help tell your friend how to do
No.
that. So I agree, there might be points where it'll be like, what do we do? And even when I was playing with these people, we were relying on the one person with the boomerang to get the third member of our team across the lava using the boomerang.
Yeah.
And the other 2 members of the team, including me, we just kept saying, use your item, and they kept
Yeah.
using the boomerang like in the wrong direction, just
Oh,
mucking
no.
about with bombs, and I was like, what are you doing? Just like, so it's hard to say use your item in this direction, for example.
Right, exactly. There's
or
no
use
specific
it on
to
them. Yeah.
which is the problem, I think. But it'll be fine because we're just going to be on Skype every time we play this game. So fuck you, Nintendo, and your stupid emoticons, because we can just talk to each other.
Yes.
And it'll make it easier. It'll make it
So
more
yeah,
fun.
looking forward to playing that next week. And the demo was fine. It was fine.
Yeah,
It was what it was.
yeah. We'll have proper thoughts on it when we play the actual game. But yeah, for now we pretty much the levels were the same as what we did at Hyper Japan. So
But yeah.
no talk on that.
Enough Nintendo games
Enough
from the
Nintendo.
fanboy on this side of
Oh God.
the side of the room, side of the Skype call.
The metaphorical room in which
Metaphorical room.
Skype takes
Yes.
place. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Um,
What have you been playing, MBZ?
I have. Oh man. So haven't really been beating games recently, and
Back
I
to the
think a
good
lot
old
of that.
days.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is to do with being back at uni and actually having to do work. So not having as much time to just sit around and play Witcher for 200 hours. But
Those were the
uh,
days.
that was look. It was a good summer, I'll tell you. It was a good summer. So I've been slowly making my way through Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. History lesson for you very quickly for people who don't know. Before last year, I knew nothing about Metal Gear Solid. Absolutely clueless. And Giant Bomb, a site that we love dearly, started up a video series with Dan Reichert and Drew Scanlon, and the idea of it was to show Drew Metal Gear Solid, show him the series, and get him to play through the games and experience it as if someone who played them at the time would have experienced it. And I started watching that series, and I was like, holy shit, the first Metal Gear Solid is kind of incredible. Like, I just didn't know how innovative and how game-changing that thing was. But the first Metal Gear Solid is probably one of the most important video games ever made, and my eyes were opened at that point. And I was like, wow, this is certainly not a game I would like to play personally, but as an outside observer, like, appreciating it, I can certainly take in a lot from what I'm watching.
Because you're such a fan of stealth.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's my fundamental issue with Metal Gear Solid is like I don't like stealth, so I don't think any of the games, at least 1 through 4, do a great job of letting you be stealthy efficiently. And honestly, like the way they control, or the way that I saw Drew just struggle to hell and high water with controlling those games, I don't think I would personally want to play them. However, we get to Metal Gear Solid 5, and it's very different. Very different from the previous entries in the series is that, number one, not as story-focused as before. Metal Gear Solid 4 is infamously known for having a cutscene at the end that is basically 2 hours long. It's essentially like a mini-movie. That is not really the case in the 5th game. They, for whatever reason, decided, probably because of the shit going on with Konami and money and Kojima spending way too much of it, that the story has ended up being truncated, and there's lots of people talking about the ending not being what they wanted it to be, but, you know, I'll get there, I'll make my judgment when that happens, but that's kind of like a really core aspect of Metal Gear is the craziness. Like, it is just the most insane story that has ever been told in a game, and I'm not sure that is quite hitting the mark here, but it's also something that I'm not too worried about, because the gameplay of MGS5 is fucking sublime. Like, it is one of the best controlling, smoothest, open sandboxes that I've ever had the delight of being in. And I think the reason for that is they give you so many tools and so many options by which you can approach situations. So they'll say, all right, you can go and get this prisoner from this base camp, and you can approach this area from wherever you want. Because it's open world, you can come at it from whatever side you want, you can take people out non-lethally, you can be extremely stealthy about it, or you can just strap a fucking rocket launcher to your back and blow everyone to pieces. Like, it doesn't... I mean, certainly you can get higher rankings if you are more stealthy and that kind of thing, but if you just want to go for the objective and try and finish the mission, take it however you please. It really just gives you so many options. And I think one of the issues with the older games is that they had a lot of options, but they didn't allow you to experiment that much. And that's why, like, this has been like such a joy to play so far. So
And
I'm like,
is it like an open world? You say sandbox. Can you just go and do side missions and things? How does that all work?
yeah, it's all kind of You have it's called an iDroid. It's kind of futuristic. This is based in the 80s, but like you basically have this
Right.
futuristic technology, which you can bring up your map and like your missions and
Like Star Wars.
managing. Yeah, yeah, basically.
Based in the
Um,
80s with future technology.
yeah, kind of. So yeah, I mean, side missions are popped around everywhere. You can just go around on your horse or just run around the world and just come into them naturally. Every kind of outpost is populated with people. I will say the world isn't really. It doesn't necessarily feel like your traditional open world in the sense that there's lots of empty space between areas. Kind of the main points that you get to are these big bases where all the enemies are, and there's like resources in them that you can get, all
Mm.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of freedom there, but it's not huge. Like it's not an overwhelmingly massive Grand Theft Auto 5 level of a world. It's kind of more segregated areas, but it still gives you the freedom to go wherever you want, whenever you want, and that kind of stuff. But really, I think MGS5 is more about the stories that you tell, like the things that you do personally that are just fucking crazy, and you want to tell people about them. So there's this one mission where you have to basically blow up a couple of tanks, eliminating a few generals, and they start coming along the road as soon as you find this intel file. So you find the file, and the guy's on the radio, and he's like, "All right, I've given you their predicted path. This is where they're going to go. They're going to get to this base. Try and destroy them before they get to the base." And I go down to the road, and I see I've got a little bit of time. So I place down some C4. I'm like, all right, I'm going to hide in the road, wait till this tank goes over the C4, blow it up, and just destroy these people as quickly as I can. So the tank goes over the C4, I blow it up, but it doesn't really do anything because it's a tank and like it's really well armored. So they kind of stop for a second, and then they keep moving. I'm like, shit, oh dear, they're on the move. I've got to get this sorted before it all goes haywire. So I get on my horse and I take like a
Of course,
route
what
round the
a
side.
horse.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, come on. I get on my trusty steed, ride on this route round the corner, get to a bit further down the road. I'm like, okay, I'm going to place like 3 bits of C4 here. Like, surely that's going to do it. So I lay those down, hide in the corner, tank comes over, and I fucking blow it to smithereens, which is fantastic. It gets destroyed, but there are still 2 more vehicles. Like, there's this just standard truck, and there is another tank behind it. So they keep going. Like, the tank gets destroyed, but they keep going to the base. I'm like, shit, they're like gonna make it in 2 seconds. They make it to the base, and I find a vantage point. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because at this point in time, I don't have a rocket launcher, so I can't just stand there and rocket launch from far away and keep hiding, which is the way when I watched Drew play through this mission, he just used the rocket launcher and annihilated them, which was a much easier way of doing it.
Yeah.
Instead, I basically sniped the dude because he got out of his truck, and I killed him, and they noticed, and they all went on alert, so I was like, fuck, okay. I need to get rid of this tank, and I can't do it without getting like right up close to it, planting C4, and basically trying to gun it out of there and blowing up as I leave. So I go back down, find this alternate route into the base. There are like 50 dudes. They're all on alert. They're all looking around, but it's under cover of darkness. So like their visibility is a bit lower. I can kind of get through. So very, very slowly, I crawl like at 0 miles an hour towards this tank. The tank also looking about. It had shot up to the area I was before, and they kind of are all kind of milling around that area. And I crawl around it. I go and plant 4 bits of C4 along the tracks, and very slowly make my way back. I get up. I get spotted by a guard. I'm like, shit, I need to blow this thing before I get taken down. So I blow up the thing, the tank explodes, I run as they shoot at me from the base, call my horse, jump on it, and just ride off into the distance, finishing the mission. And it was
Wow.
just the most spectacular thing in the world. And that is the kind of unique story that you don't get from other games, simply because they don't give you the options. Like, they don't give you the ability to MacGyver a solution out of nothing.
I swear, Vinny Caravella on the Giant Beast cast talked about maybe even the same mission, and
Yeah.
he says he just strapped loads of C4 to his horse, and then just
Yeah.
got the horse to ride beside by itself, like beside the tank, and just blew
Yeah.
up the whole thing. So like,
Yeah.
and then the other hosts of the Beastcast were like, Vinny, you disgust me. Like, you just blew up your horse, and like, so, and that's the big impression I get as someone who hasn't played this game, is that there are these set missions within, like you said, a sandbox, and you can just do whatever you like to try and complete this mission, and that is really, really interesting, and like it's something I'd love to try eventually, like a game like this.
Yeah, you should try it when you come over at some point. Like it's just so much fun. Like it never gets old is the thing. And again, I was saying before I don't like stealth games mainly because they just don't give you the ability to be stealthy. And this, you have so many tools at your disposal. Like, you also have the buddy system, which is like you have your dog with you, or you have Quiet, who's the sniper. And I've just upgraded her so that she now has a silenced sleep sniper. So I can just be like, all right, I'll look at this dude and I'll say, okay, fire. And she just shoots this dart from like 20 miles away and takes him out before I even get noticed.
Yeah.
And like the way that you just approach things is it's so much fun. Like you're able to mark enemies. Like you can just zoom in with your scope and just make sure you know where they are at all times. Also, if you die, they still remain marked. So like it doesn't kill any of your progress. You know where everyone is in the base, so you can go around and know that you're going to be in danger or not in danger. And also, there's a really cool thing where if you get spotted, there's a thing called reflex mode where it basically goes into slow motion for about maybe 6-7 seconds, and it allows you the opportunity to like line up your shot and get like a sleep dart in their head before they notice you and before they alert the enemies and go on alert basically. So it's been a thrill ride so far. It's so much fun, and I'm doing like everything in it. I'm not sure when I'm going to finish, but it will be at some point in the future. I'll talk about it when I finish it. But for now, those are my thoughts. I'm really enjoying it. The other thing, talked about Witcher earlier and me spending forever in it. The new DLC for The Witcher 3 came out, Hearts of Stone, which I have...
But you hadn't even finished the first bit.
What do you mean I hadn't finished the first
Oh,
bit?
had you finished it?
I finished Witcher 3, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. But I thought there was a lot of side stuff that you were still wanting to do.
No, I mean, like, there's lots of stuff in Witcher which is...
Or is that just infinite?
Yeah, kind of. Well, not really. Like, you can finish it, but it's all like these random question marks on the map, and none of those are really story-based. They're more just, oh, here's a bandit camp that's been taken over, you just kill them all. Like,
Okay.
it's not really the strong point of that game. Like, I did all the side missions, which are very much, you know, they have dialogue, they have characters, they have interesting cutscenes and that kind of stuff. So I did all of those. I basically finished most of the content in The Witcher, just not all this random question mark stuff on the map. But the new DLC came out, and that is just a bunch more missions. Really been enjoying it. There was a mission yesterday that I played, which was basically an hour and a half of just being at a wedding. Like, there's such interesting stuff that this game does where it's not like going out and just fighting things forever. You're just like going around a wedding and taking part in like activities at the wedding. Like you have to chase some pig into a pen, and you have to play this game where a woman throws her boot into a pond, and it's like, oh, you need to be a man and get her boot and be chivalrous for her. And like it's just these weird traditions of this made up world of a wedding, and it was really cool. Like, I didn't fight anything. I just talked to people and, like, built relationships and that kind of stuff. And, yeah, the game just keeps adding variety and diversity. And it just continues to be fantastic, enjoyable experience.
Is there going to be even more DLC?
Yeah, there is. There's going to be
wow.
another, like, so this one is supposed to be like a 10-hour adventure. I think I've already put probably 10 hours into it and I'm not done yet. But the next one that's supposed to come out like next year, like first half of next year, is supposed to be a 20-hour thing, and it also includes a whole new area. So this was basically adding a little bit to the current area, like expanding it out a little bit. But the next one is going to be a brand new landmass, so that is exciting, and I'm very interested to see how that goes. But I guess I'll play that when it comes to it. I've just been playing long open world video games, and I think I need to finish something soon because I might drive myself insane, Bally. Might happen. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We will come back after this break. We'll talk about some emails, I guess, and yeah. That'll be good. That'll be fun. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
The unknown, looking at the abyss, and I'm hoping for some miracle to break out, to escape from all this. Whispers in the air tell the tale of a life that's gone. Desolation, devastation. What a mess we made when it all went wrong. I'm nuclear. I'm wild. I'm breaking up inside. A heart of broken glass, defiled, deep inside the abandoned child.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It is part 2, and that means it's time for your emails. But before I read out the first email, let me remind you about the address, which is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That's ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We've got quite a few to catch up on, but it'd be nice to get more because we always need more. So, our first email is from Peter. Dear Bally and MBZ, even though I've been a lifelong gamer and Nintendo fan, there was a period of several years, approximately from 05 to 2012, that I took a break from following the game industry. It seems to me that during that time the concept of the AAA game emerged. What determines what is a AAA game versus a niche game? I noticed during this most recent E3 that those labels seem to be applied rather inconsistently. For example, media coverage seemed to gloss over Xenoblade X as being niche, while highlighting games like Fallout 4 as being AAA. As far as I can tell, both games seem to be sprawling open-world RPGs, so why such a big difference with how they're regarded in the media? Even Nintendo themselves seem to relegate Xenoblade X and Fire Emblem Cross SMT for that matter, to secondary status. Why do you think that is? Thanks for putting on a great show, Peter, who's at CapsuleJ, that's CapsuleJay on Twitter, and he's from Georgia, USA.
All right, Peter, thank you very much for that question. It's a really interesting one because there are lots of ways that we can look at the phrase AAA. I think there are different ways in which it's defined, and I think different people have different opinions on it, which is why it's a little bit, it's a bit of an amorphous concept. If we go down to like the Wikipedia entry, the dictionary definition, I think the three core aspects that people would pin down as being AAA is number one, a lot of money invested. Millions of dollars, lots of yen, the euros aplenty. There's money in the bank going into that game, right? So that's number one. I think that's probably the single most important factor determining a AAA game. Number two is it commercially successful? Does it sell a bunch of copies? Is it over 10 million? You know, is it a game that passes a certain threshold? That is also a factor. And I think the third one, which doesn't necessarily fit every case because this is obviously dependent upon critique, is reviews and how well it does critically, right? So if a game is like The Witcher 3, then it will meet all three of these criteria, right? It is very expensive, it has a lot of money invested into it, it sold very well, and it also was very well critically received. So that is kind of the definition of today's AAA game. There's also the situation where you can have your Assassin's Creed from last year, which fits the criteria of two of those in that a lot of money invested and also commercially successful, but did very poorly on the critical side. So I think if we're coming down to it, I think it's the first two elements that are the important ones. However, there are obviously examples where this is not the case in terms of the media's perception. And for me, the way that the media translate the phrase AAA these days means a few things. Number one, it means high production values. You know, it has to be cinematic, or visually beautiful. You know, it has to be a good look. It has to be kind of a thrill ride. Number two, open world. Open world is the definition of what AAA games are becoming in this generation. And I think that is something that a lot of people will associate with AAA. So that is kind of the feelings that a lot of people have, and it's hard to pin down. But yeah, I think if we start that as a baseline, that's for me what AAA is in two different spaces. So when it comes to something like Xenoblade, why isn't this the case? Well, a few reasons. Number one, it is not very well known by the public in general. For example, listening to Giant Bombcast last week, and they were talking about all the AAA games coming out this year, and they just mention them and they keep knocking them off. And at some point, Jeff mentions Yoshi's Woolly World, which is an interesting one, and maybe Bally can talk a little bit about that and like maybe why that wouldn't be counted as AAA. But there was no mention of Xenoblade at all. I think it's just lack of knowledge into the industry about that game. So
Yeah, I was really thinking hard about this idea of AAA in a Nintendo context. And, like, I mean, in your opinion, I mean, I'll say what I think first quickly, but I think in the last, say, couple of years, would games like Splatoon, Mario Kart 8 count as AAA?
I think Mario Kart 8 absolutely does. I think Splatoon does, yeah.
And that's because a lot of money was invested in those games. They've commercially done very well within the poor commerciality, the poor sales of the Wii U.
Yes.
And they've both been critically successful.
Yeah, the thing though with the media is I feel that they just relegate Nintendo to the sidelines because they're so far behind and because they're so irrelevant to so many people these days. The idea of AAA is now pretty much wholly associated with these realistic open world action shooting, you know, everything that third-party publishers and people on Microsoft and Sony platforms put out has become what AAA means, which is why things are forgotten in the sense of something like a Mario Kart. Like, everyone will regard Mario Kart highly, and they will think, hey, this is a really fun, really good game, but I'm not sure that many people say, oh yeah, it's a AAA game, because it doesn't fit the traditional molds right now of what is viewed as a AAA game. If we go back to 1985, Super Mario Bros. Is a AAA game, even though it's a 2D platformer. But now we have a 2D platformer come out, and it's not viewed in the same way. So.
What about a game like FIFA?
That's an interesting one as well.
It sells well.
Yes.
Critically, it's debatable. I guess it does all right. There's a lot of money goes into that, but at the same time, you were mentioning that story and open world and these ideas were quite important to AAA, and it's obviously not got that. So it's a really difficult thing to sort of tie down.
Right, and I think the real problem is that there is, within the games media, a baseline for what AAA is, as we kind of just talked about, and not many people in the games media play niche Japanese RPGs. Not many people in the games media are sports fans and will play every Madden and play every FIFA, right? So because of that, those are kind of shoved to the back of their mind and, you know, put on the back burner, and as a result, yes, in definition they are AAA, but for the consensus of people critiquing and talking about games, they just don't enter their minds. So I think it's more of a, you know, being in a bubble. You know, we're in this games media bubble, and outside of that, clearly there are millions and millions of people who care about these things, but we don't, right? Or a lot of them don't,
and I think Nintendo just has a really unique and not always healthy relationship with the games media, Western media. I mean, I think we've not talked about AAA being between, you know, Western games that are traditionally far more story-driven, open world, that kind of thing, versus Japanese games which don't really fall into any category. Maybe perhaps far more RPG related, but then you could talk about something like Metal Gear, which I guess is Japanese.
Yes.
But I'd say that kind of style of game within Japan is more unusual.
Oh, absolutely. Metal Gear is kind of an anomaly in many senses.
And I think I think there's just too much consensus around games like Assassin's Creed that are developed in the West, that sell well in the West, that sell poorly in the East, that where they're just kind of trying, not purposefully trying to shove out Japan, but I think that Nintendo just get caught by not following the dogma of, here's our annual AAA game.
Yes.
Here's our Assassin's Creed. Here's Call of Duty. That's another game that we've not mentioned yet.
Right.
It's quite hard to define. And Witcher 3. I mean, a very Western game.
Yeah.
Incredibly open world, incredibly expansive, story driven. Unquestionably AAA, just because the number of assets in that game and things like that.
Yeah.
So I just feel like Nintendo. I think if you spoke to someone who worked at Nintendo in Japan and like you translated it, I think they'd be like, AAA, yeah. What's that again? I don't think it's something they know about or strive to be. Or
No.
Whereas I think if you sit down perhaps in an Ubisoft development studio and you think, I think they genuinely do think about how can we make this game more epic, more interesting with story mechanics, and how do we make Assassin's Creed even more epic in a AAA sense? And they talk about bigger worlds, more stories, more quests, more missions. This kind of thing. I just don't think that conversation is certainly had in Nintendo and arguably within Japanese development.
No, I think it has a lot to do with the current state of Japanese games development these days. The console market has basically fallen away, and everyone's on mobile, and everyone's doing handheld stuff, and again, like those are spaces where there are some really high quality things happening on 3DS, something like Link Between Worlds, which was exceptional and like such a well-crafted, well-honed experience. But again, like that for some reason doesn't get mentioned in a discussion of AAA games by the fact that it's a handheld game,
Yeah.
It just gets pigeonholed because it's not on a TV with a sound system, blaring things out. So, yeah, it's kind of obvious that for most games media outlets, they just don't care anymore. And because they don't care, they don't put the time into research or know about the stuff that's happening on Nintendo platforms, which is why everyone is going to ignore Xenoblade Chronicles X, apart from the very few minority, and despite the fact that, it's basically a AAA game. So, yeah.
Well, really good question, Peter. Like, I'm sure this is something that's going to come up again because it is really interesting the way that, you can watch a Western coverage of a conference like E3 and it's just all about the AAA.
Yes.
And in many ways that's kind of a shame because there are lots of great games that aren't AAA, and likewise there are plenty of stellar games that are AAA. So yeah. Anyway, our next question is from Ryan, MBZ and Bally. I heard this question the other day on another Nintendo podcast and I thought it was pretty interesting. The question is, have you ever missed something crucial in a game only to find out you missed it after the fact? While playing the tutorial in Metroid Other M, I somehow missed the part that explains that you can dodge attacks by double tapping the D-pad. Without this move, some of the later bosses became near impossible. The final boss took me over an hour to beat, and I sat there with no idea what I was doing wrong. I felt like a complete idiot when I found out later that you can easily dodge almost anything in the game. Have either of you had similar stories? If so, I would love to hear them. Thanks, Ryan.
Well, it's funny you should ask, Ryan, because one of our favourite stories is teed up perfectly for this question.
Oh, yes.
I also have to say, like, trying to play Metroid Other M without that dodge sounds like a suicide mission. Like, holy shit. I was tapping that thing the entire game, so I can only imagine your pain. And, that sounds horrible. But, Bally, I'll let you take it away.
I bought The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker when I was about 12, 13. I can't even remember now. And I played basically up to about it must have been Tower of the Gods by myself, I believe.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten past Tower of the Gods, and my good friend Ali T, I was with him, and we played a save file of Wind Waker. He was playing it and I was watching, and I'd already seen all that game up to Tower of the Gods and the end of Tower of the Gods. So when I was playing, and I was just playing by myself, like I said, I got to Godin, the boss of Tower of the Gods, and basically, the idea with Godin is he's a stereotypical Zelda boss. He's a big head and two big hands, and they're often linked with the bow and arrow. So in this case, you have to shoot using the bow and arrow his hands, like a little target on his hands, as well as his eyes, I believe, and then you bomb him or something. I can't quite remember now, but basically shooting your arrows is key. So I didn't know about a little thing called L targeting. So I, believe it or not, did that entire boss fight without any L targeting. And this was not the HD version. Like I said, this was GameCube, so there was no motion control with the aiming of the thing. So I was literally aiming my bow and arrow using an analog stick. And I think I did it like third time maybe, or maybe it took me twice, I can't remember, but it was tough and I really had to focus, and I thought, God, that was a bit of a tough boss for like the third dungeon.
It's like this game hasn't been this hard so far. Why is it suddenly impossible?
Like, yeah, exactly. And I didn't discover L targeting until, I mean, obviously there's a part at the start of the game when you're learning how to use the sword where you briefly L target once. But I just thought you only had to do it to get past that tutorial. I was 12
Back
and like
then,
13.
you weren't
Back
the
then,
meticulous, like, read all the tutorials guy that you
precisely.
are now. So.
I was literally about to come to that.
Yeah.
I'm now so meticulous. But back then, yeah, I thought it was just a little thing you had to do to get past the tutorial at the start, and then I didn't L target. And like right up until after Tower of the Gods, I'd fight all the enemies without L targeting. And you know, I think that does demonstrate how easy Wind Waker is in parts.
Right, that you could get there without doing that.
I really wouldn't like to take on many of the enemies in a game like Ocarina, for example, without L targeting.
No.
Or Z targeting as it is in that game. So yeah, I only discovered how far off the beaten path I'd gone by watching Ali T playing Godin, fighting against him, and all of a sudden the camera was at this funny angle and he was aiming his bow and arrow at the hands, and I was like, what are you pressing to do that, Ali? He's like, I'm just L targeting. I'm like, whoa, I never did that when I fought this boss. And we were both just sat there like, wow, how did you even beat it? Like, we were just sort of stunned. But no, like you said, MBZ, I am an absolute stickler for a tutorial. I like going, at the start of games, I like going incredibly slowly, reading everything really slowly, making sure I take it all in. If I have the option of doing tutorials, I will do every option. I just find, for me, it just makes sure that I don't miss things like that, and it just makes the game in general a smoother experience. So I learned the lesson of my ways, and
Yeah.
I'm a reformed gamer now. So
Well,
that's all good.
that's good. No, I still kind of have a habit of not doing that. Like most recently with Metal Gear, I've been learning a lot of stuff through watching Drew and Dan on Giant Bomb play, because I kind of just like, oh yeah, they're telling me a thing, that's fine, I'll figure it out. And then I wouldn't figure it out. So yeah, I can be a little bit of a stickler for
And
not
often
sticking.
on simple things you might miss. They might be quite hard to sometimes look up online. Like really
Yeah.
simple stuff is sometimes quite hard to Google. And at the start of the game, that's why I'm just so like slow to just take it all in, make sure I'm
Right.
doing the right thing, and yeah. So we are definitely, that is definitely an area where we are very different, MBZ.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I don't have like a specific example. I would say blocking in fighting games. Not that I didn't know how to do it, but I just never thought it was useful. You know,
Even your current Smash Brothers sort of style is far more offensive than defensive, I would say.
Yeah.
I definitely am confident of getting a hit in as long as I just make contact.
Right. Whereas I'm just like spamming quite a lot. Yeah. So when we played Soul Calibur and stuff like Smash back in the day, I would not use the shoulder buttons. I would refuse to block because I was like, that's stupid. Why do you block? You just hit. You want to do damage, don't you? That's how the game works, right? The person wins who does the more damage. So do that.
That's the more damage, exactly.
Yeah. And so that's I made my way through the Weapon Master mode of Soul Calibur 2 and got really far in it, like never blocking at all. And there are some parts in that game where like you really have to block, and somehow I just kind of brute force my way through. But You know, it's how it happens sometimes. So, yeah.
So our next question is from Ollie. G'day lads, Ollie from Sydney, Australia. Still loving the show. My question is, what do you think the NX has to do to outsell the Wii U? Obviously marketing it better would help, but I'm more thinking hardware and software. Thanks for answering, fellas. Well, I think this is $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is what everyone really wants
Yes.
to know. If I'm blunt, I don't think the NX has to really do anything to outsell the Wii U because the Wii U has performed so catastrophically that I think it will not have a hard time doing better than its predecessor. But I do think there are a lot of things that Nintendo should do to get it a good start. Number one, let's focus on the launch. Let's get a good launch. Let's get the messaging right. Let's make sure it's marketed well. Let's make sure people know what this system is and not have confusion. Let's just get out of the door and have a strong start, because a strong start is so important, as we have seen this past generation with how Microsoft fucked themselves so brutally before the Xbox One was released. They're now still paying the consequences. Like, there are still people who think that you can't play used games on Xbox One. Like, that is a messaging error that they made early on that is still haunting them to this day. I think Nintendo feel the same way as about the naming of Wii U, where there are still people who do not understand it's a different system. So if there's one thing, they need to make sure people know what the fuck this thing is. That is the baseline. After that, I think there's a strong possibility that they could do really well at launch if they position themselves as having a lot of Wii U software transferred over to NX. This generation currently, there's lots of remasters and stuff happening on the other platforms, which is fine, but those aren't really driving sales necessarily, mainly because so many people owned the previous generation, and so many people have already played those games. Whereas in Wii U's case, there's such a small user base that having, a Splatoon version remastered, having, Mario Maker, having the ability to take these games from Wii U and basically plant them as launch titles means that they're new to the majority of people, and they're also very, very strong propositions. So that could possibly be a thing, but it also would mean that either there would have to be some sort of input device similar on NX to Wii U or something along those lines, because I think those games kind of require the gamepad. So, yeah.
I think the simple trick that they're definitely going to go for, I'm convinced at this stage, is the whole dual thing with handheld. We don't know how that will happen yet, but I mean, traditionally, since the Game Boy now, Nintendo handhelds have sold really, really well. And the second the NX has something to do with handhelds, and as long as, this iOS mobile market doesn't completely outswamp it, which I'm confident it still won't, because I'm confident there's still a market for gamers who want a gaming device that isn't a phone.
Right. I mean, 3DS has sold 50 million. That's
Exactly.
a pretty sizable chunk of people who have said, no, fuck phones, I want a dedicated device.
So the second it's something handheld related, it's going to sell gangbusters, arguably. There's no reason why it wouldn't, and that's the 3DS didn't start with great marketing. It didn't start with great launch or anything. So that, making it relate to the handheld is almost like a sales buffer. If they can do a good launch and it is handheld related, having a good launch would be incredible. And like what you were saying about the good launch, MBZ, is that so many big Nintendo first-party games haven't come out in quite a while, like a Metroid game, and obviously with Federation Force, it was hinted that they're holding back something big for an NX. Make that a launch game, get the hype going. That'll get amazing critical hype going for a game, and obviously there has to be something mainstream with it as well. So I don't know, like you said, a Splatoon or a Mario Maker, something that could appeal to a wider
the easy
audience.
answer is Smash Brothers, because you can do a Game of the Year, fully DLC'd out version of Smash Brothers with all the characters and everything, and that could be one of the strongest propositions for people. Because I think there is a desire from so many people to play Smash Brothers, but they don't find Wii U appealing as a system. And as a result, they don't invest in it and they don't get to play the game. But if you have this new system which is more powerful, which is maybe speaking to people a bit more, and has a version of Smash Brothers that is basically the ultimate edition, that I think could be an exceptionally strong launch title.
And I think on that, I agree it would be exceptionally strong, but I think we know that Sakurai is quite burned out.
Oh,
and,
of course, you know.
And obviously there's so much work going on with DLC characters for the Wii U version that it's going to be a long, long time before another Smash Brothers. But I do completely agree. Excuse me, belching here. I don't know what's going on. I think a really simple thing is make sure that this system is marketed well and is distanced as far as possible from the Wii and the Wii U. Don't make the system white. Don't say anything about appealing to any sort of market that would appeal to a Wii or Wii U owner. Try something different. Don't do dual screens like the 3DS or the DS. Do something different that makes it distinctive. I think that's why the DS initially was quite successful. It was such a distinctive break from the Game Boy. It's why the Wii was quite successful from the GameCube. It was completely separate. And the Wii was so burned out by the time that Wii U came out. That brand was dead in the water long before the Wii U came out. It was just a suicidal move to go with Wii in the name and make the system white. Well, obviously there's a black version as well,
right?
But they still had that white one marketed heavily. So
sure,
make it multicolored or something, just different, or a funny shape. Or
it needs to stand out, and people need to know that it is a new thing, essentially.
Exactly.
So.
And I think the launch lineup is so crucial, as we already said. But marketing, launch lineup, have it relate to the handheld, and it can sell 40-50 million. And I think that's what Nintendo need. I think it's possible. I think gamers like us will absolutely love it, whatever they do. But we're Nintendo enthusiasts.
Right. Look, we're not the people that they are trying to get
exactly.
here. We're already invested, so it doesn't matter.
But there are people out there who love Nintendo games who did not buy a Wii U because they felt it was dead in the water. There wasn't going to be enough software for it. I agree that those that did buy a Wii U will absolutely love games like Mario Maker, Splatoon, 3D World, all these great games, Pikmin 3. But it was always quite clear that those great games weren't going to last because the system was kind of dead in the water from the off. And NX needs to change that, because I think there's a Nintendo gamer in everyone, and they just need persuaded to
absolutely.
Up something like an NX.
Absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree. And Nintendo haven't marketed Wii U particularly well, but in recent times, the way they marketed Splatoon was pretty fantastic, and it has paid off for them, I think. They went hard with those advertisements, and they targeted them at Nickelodeon and at all these places that kids were going to see them and be entranced by it. And I think they were successful in doing so. So we know that they can still market a product. They just need to try, goddammit. So.
Yes. Well, I think that's all the emails for this week. But again, the email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That's thisnintendolife@gmail.com. We love your emails. Just send them in. Let us know where you're from. That's always good fun too. And look forward to reading more emails next time. But I think the next segment, what are we going to talk about in the next segment?
I don't know. It's a mystery. We'll find out when we get there. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Alright, everyone, welcome back to the show. This week, we weren't really sure what we were going to talk about, so we decided there's been little bits and pieces of news. There's lots of speculation that there could be a Nintendo Direct soon, and there's lots of just little things. So we wanted to give our opinions, give our thoughts about them, have a wee bit of a chat. So, Bally, where do you want to start here? We've got a few things on the table. Do you want to dive straight into
Dev
NX
kits.
stuff?
NX.
Alright, let's dive into it. So, reports came out very recently that Nintendo are sending out development kits for the NX. This likely means that Western third parties are getting their hands on it. Now, I would imagine, Bally, at this point in time, Nintendo have had internal dev kits for a while. They have been working on stuff, they've been building stuff themselves. I also think that Japanese third parties are much more in on the ground floor. The reason I say that is because back when Square Enix announced Dragon Quest XI, they said that there would be an NX version, or at least they were considering an NX version. They couldn't directly say that, I think, because Nintendo were like, no, you can't mention NX, but they said it anyway. They invoked the NX. And so that makes me think, like, people like Capcom, Square Enix, Atlas, maybe, some of these Japanese publishers will have access to NX stuff before anyone else will, likely because those are the third parties that Nintendo has relationships with that are actually meaningful, like, Bandai Namco and Bandai Namco. God damn it.
That's what I did a long time ago.
I think Vinny did it on the Beastcast as well recently.
Bandai
Namco, yeah. Bandai Namco. Because they used to be Namco Bandai, which is why it's weird now. They globally changed it so that their name was backwards and confusing. Anyway, let's not talk about the minutiae of company names. So dev kits are out. Bally, this means a couple of things. Number one, maybe Western third parties will be interested in NX, at least for like the launch period, and they'll maybe see what they want to do with them. Number two, I think this means that we are going to learn something about NX very soon, because it's now out in the open where lots of people know about it, and Nintendo can't necessarily control that. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if, like, how does if you have a dev kit, what's the deal on keeping things secret, and how do you have a whole team of developers working on a game without something leaking to someone? Like, surely it's impossible.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the nature of it, unfortunately. These days, it's so easy to proliferate information, and I think there was some stuff before PS4 and Xbox One launch where we knew details to some degree about them because people had dev kits, right? When you're wanting people to make stuff for your platform, you don't really have the option to just hide everything away, because they have to make games for it, They have to have stuff for launch, so they have to give people the dev kit to work with. And, the double-edged sword to that is that they can just go and tell people. They're not bound by the ironclad fist of Nintendo of Japan, They have to do what they want with it.
Here's a controversial idea. So assuming, like you said, we presume they will announce the NX and show it in some form or another at E3.
Mm-hmm.
E3 is a really long way away from now.
Yes.
If I was Nintendo, this is very controversial, why not reveal it in some sort of direct or something? Like, keep control over how it gets announced, because like we've just agreed, like the specifications of the NX and what it actually is must be leaked in the next few months. So why not just get ahead of the bandwagon and include something NX related in a direct?
Yeah, I don't think they will say anything this year, because they already made direct statements saying nothing until 2016. But they said just 2016. They didn't preclude themselves for just saying E3, which does mean, like Sony did at the start of the year the PS4 was announced, they held their own event. Sony and Microsoft unveiled their consoles at their own events. They had stage shows, they did them, streamed them out, and they controlled the message, which I think was a smart move for them. Before, getting to E3 and having it all be about the reveal, they could concentrate on games and concentrate on other stuff. And I think Nintendo might want to do that, because especially when Wii U was being announced, like, we had, like, the February or January before that E3, people were hearing the name Project Cafe, and there were rumors about the gamepad, about it being a controller with a screen built in, and so even going into E3, all of us had some idea of what this device was going to look like and what this device was going to be, which means that, like, if they don't want that happening again and they want to keep it as secret as possible, then try and get their message out early before everyone else starts leaking stuff.
Do you think that dev kits going out now suggests holiday 2016 is more or less likely?
It's interesting. I've heard a couple of different opinions on this. I think some people are saying if they're going out just now, like, it has to be 2017, like, clearly that's not enough time. But I think that maybe because this is happening with third parties, it's more them saying, can you please try and get a port of whatever games you're working on to come onto our system, you know? I think that Nintendo have probably been ramping up development-wise for NX for quite some time, and perhaps that means that they are ready to launch stuff in holiday 2016. It may be a bit of a rush, but you then also look up the lineup for next year, and it is so paper thin that you can't kind of imagine them going for the next 12 months without a new system being introduced, you know? 3DS has some good stuff coming up, but it's tapering off. Wii U is all but dead, really. We don't have any information on Zelda since that last time we saw it at the Game Awards, and they are just refusing to acknowledge its existence. There's a lot of kind of things in the air that have that feel about them that it could be a holiday 2016. I think I might put my chips on the table there, especially because, as I said before, Nintendo and Japanese developers have likely had their hands on this stuff much, much earlier, as in, like, the start of this year, probably. So
that's interesting. You were quite keen on 2017 before, I seem to remember, and I was quite, based on no knowledge at all, I was quite keen on holiday 2016. But yeah, no, I think I agree. Like, with all the internal development they will have been doing, I think holiday 2016 is something the industry would want because, like you said, there's hardly anything coming out, and it would be great to have something at that point in time. And yeah, it's the Wii U, like you said, it's just not. It's not ticking over, and Zelda is, like, vanished for some strange reason, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, so I mean, this article comes from the Wall Street Journal, a very reputable publication, and a couple of things that were mentioned in the article. They say that people familiar with the development plans said Nintendo would likely include both a console and at least one mobile unit that could either be used in conjunction with the console or taken on the road for separate use. So this kind of confirming a lot of people's theories that the device will be cross-platform in the sense that it will be like iOS, where you have iPhone and iPad, everything syncs between them, and you have this united ecosystem. I don't think this is what people say is like the hybrid device, because they're just going to be separate systems that have a link between them, is how I see it. Where do you come down on that, Bally?
Yeah, I think that does sound a lot like here's like you said, a device you can take with you, unified system in some way. What we've said on the show a number of times, like, handhelds sell well with Nintendo. They always have done, probably always will, because definitely, in my opinion, mobile is separate to handheld devices, so there's definitely a market for that. And it's sensible, it's exciting, that's exactly where they need to go, so definitely looking forward to it.
Now, here's the interesting thing that I want to add. People have kind of thought that maybe they release one system before the other. So You could see a situation that maybe the console side needs a bit more development, a bit more time, and their handheld has been around much longer. The 3DS is an older system. That is the one that traditionally, if we were in the normal cycle for Nintendo, would be the one that was going to be refreshed soonest. So there could be a situation where they put out the handheld device, and obviously their handhelds sell far better than their consoles have in recent years. The handheld device gets out there, people buy games for it, people get excited about it, and then next year, maybe summer, maybe spring, they put out the home console version, and they push it as you already own this handheld device. All the games you have there will work on this one, and try and get that ecosystem going like Apple did with iPad and iPhone, and say, you know, this is all going to be cross-platform. What do you think of that idea, Bally? Is that possible and feasible?
I think that is possible, actually, in the way you said it. I think the one caveat I'd say is that the home console part of it would have to be affordable.
Yes.
And I think it's very important that if both parts would have to be in the affordable realm to sell well. And I always thought that, like, if it was sold together, it would be, but just because there's so much stuff you're getting this device that goes with you, you're getting a home console that links to your TV supposedly. That's a lot of stuff, and like that will, by definition, cost a lot of money. So splitting it in two, in many ways, might people like. There's been so much market research done that like people buying two separate things for half the price is more appealing than buying one bulk thing. Like even though it's the same price, it always looks and feels cheaper buying things separately than it does to bulk buy like that. So I think something like that could work, actually.
I mean, Nintendo have kind of already dipped their toe in this, in the sense that with Smash Brothers, they put out the handheld version first and then waited and then put out the console version, and
Yes.
that was to their benefit, because I don't think, had they put those both out on the same day, that I would have gotten both. I'm not sure it would have worked out that way. I mean, I probably would have, because I'm crazy, but you know, most people wouldn't have, and I
Yes.
think that benefited them in that situation. So it could very well be the same thing. I think they maybe are in danger of, if they put them both out at the same time, then they end up having a situation where they just don't sell as well because they're splitting their own market. So
It's a tough one, and like I hope they've done their market research, because it's a mathematical game to do with marketing as much as it is the product itself.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's that kind of stuff is really complicated, and like how what and the timing of the year, for example, like one coming out before holiday 2016, one coming out after. Do people buy more handhelds before or after sort of holiday? How does that all work? I don't know. It's interesting, and as much as we've learned about what the NX is to do with release dates and things, and how they're going to release it and launch it in bundles or whatever, we know absolutely nothing. And like
No.
how that's going to work.
I mean, talking about pricing, there's also another interesting wrinkle here to the story, and it says, they also said Nintendo would aim to put industry-leading chips in the NX devices after criticism that the Wii U's capabilities didn't match those of competitors. Now that, Bally, is very surprising to me, knowing the Nintendo of the recent era and their desire to not use powerful hardware in favor of a cheaper, more affordable device. If they are trying to compete on a power level with Sony and Microsoft, then I don't know if they can come down to that same price level that they have been known for before.
And yeah, that is. It's personally exciting, because I'd love for Nintendo to put in a bit more power and keep up a bit more in terms of resolution and 60 frames per second on lots. I mean, they're already doing 60 frames per second, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
visual fidelity and all that.
Yes.
That'd be great. I'd just be concerned from a business standpoint as to how well expensive Nintendo hardware can sell.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, especially because the Wii U is kind of expensive still for what it is, and I don't know that they can put out a system for $400 and be able to sell it solidly in a market where a lot of people have already made their decision. You know, Xbox and PS4 are just doing gangbusters. They're selling
how on
better
earth
than...
are you meant to get the third parties involved with something like that when they're already all signed up and all contracts are in full swing on the other systems?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's such an interesting future. I'm sure we will be talking much more about it. But for now, dev kits are out in the wild. I'm sure we'll hear some rumblings about what the NX actually is. That's the interesting thing about that, is like, we don't know what the fuck this thing is at all. Like,
Yeah.
there's speculation, there's people thinking things here and there, but we actually don't know anything. So we're getting to a point where things are going to happen, and it's exciting. So, moving on then, another interesting little thing. We don't have a Zelda this Christmas, Bally, but maybe we'll get another remake. People have found on the Wii U eShop an icon pertaining to The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, and the words Twilight Princess HD have been found in the eShop. What does this mean? Does this mean that they are positioning another HD remake of Twilight Princess? Is this a clerical error, and it just means that Twilight Princess is coming out on the Wii U Virtual Console? What are your thoughts, Bally?
I think initially it's like, wow, they're potentially doing another Zelda remake. Like, what about the other? I don't know. Like, we've not had a Mario remake in forever. Like, I think the last Mario remake was 64 on the DS.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and with Zelda, we've had the HD remake of Wind Waker. We've had Ocarina 3D. We've had Majora's Mask 3D. Like, now we're potentially getting Twilight Princess HD. Like, I mean, it's exciting. I'm just surprised that it's only Zelda remakes that seem to be coming out right now in relation to Nintendo. I'd personally absolutely love it if it was HD Twilight Princess. I mean, the remake of Wind Waker, everyone thought Wind Waker was already an incredible looking game, and the HD remake obviously is an incredible looking game, but the actual difference between the two are basically a bit of polish, some like new sky boxes and things like that look very nice. And obviously all the mechanics they introduced definitely helped that game a lot. But if you look at the visual murkiness that is Twilight Princess and some of the ugly textures they have in parts, if you can get something like that game into HD, it could look unbelievable. It could be a real big hit, actually.
But they would really have to do a lot of work. And that's the thing where
yeah.
it's kind of weird to me, because Wind Waker didn't need a lot of work. Like,
No.
it just at a base level looked great to start with. Twilight Princess doesn't look that good. And I mean, there's a craziness that they could go and say, okay, we're just going to rebuild Twilight Princess in the Zelda Wii U engine, right? Like that would be insanity. I don't think they would do that. But just a straight up HDification without changing the textures or anything would be a little bit of a bad way to go with it.
If that is the answer to, we don't want to put Zelda Wii U on the Wii U, we want to save it for NX, and we'll just use the engine and make a Zelda HD, Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U, I mean, if the NX does come out holiday 2016, I'd kind of be okay with this scenario. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. It seems very skeptical right now. I don't know if this is going to get announced. Like, this is another thing which is like, would this have been a Nintendo Direct? And are we moving towards a point where like that's going to happen soon? Because there's lots of things that we think should be revealed.
We've been due a Direct for so long now, haven't we? It's a bit strange.
Yeah. Well, it's not, given Nintendo's past few months. Obviously,
that's true.
Has been very up and down with CEOs and everything. So I'm not surprised that we haven't had a Direct, but it does feel like there's this build coming. Like it feels like it's being bottled up.
News to come.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is a weird one. It could happen. It couldn't. I'm just not clear at all on how interesting this would be to me personally. I think it also brings into question, like, for my Let's Play, do I then decide to just play through this game up to the point that I am in that, and then just continue from the HD version?
Oh, who knows? I don't know, but I'd happily pick it up full price and play through that game. I think Twilight Princess is a fantastic game, and
it's been a long time since you played it. So.
Yeah, definitely. I want to replay almost all the Zeldas I've played in any case. This would just be more encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. So yeah, let's then to talk about a few virtual console games that apparently came out this same leak or hack of the eShop that look like they're getting positioned to be released at some point in the near future. We have some interesting stuff on the DS virtual console. Apparently Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks both coming there. I'm not sure how those would work, if they would work all that well on the gamepad and TV.
I think they'd work quite well, actually, because they're almost similar to a game like Canvas Curse, where there might not be much going on the top screen, but almost all the action is on the single screen, so you could have it directly on the gamepad playing, which would work quite well, I could imagine.
Yeah, it's a bit weird though, isn't it? It's like the main action is on this tiny screen, and then the top screen is just a map. You know, the TV real estate has been taken up by like this inconsequential thing.
There are boss fights where they do go double screen on purpose. And
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
There's some really interesting, cool boss fights in those two games, actually, in the way they incorporate the touchscreen into and the real estate of two screens to sort of they're all very sort of vertical bosses. It's quite weird, but yeah.
It's also one of those games that actually could be fine to play the gamepad like on its side because it is basically 100% touch controls. Like there's little things that use the buttons, but it's very rare that you use the buttons in either of those. So yeah, that'd be cool. There's also apparently Mario 64 DS is going to be coming out, which is like, okay, let's just be as redundant as possible. Let's put out, you know, the GBA version of Yoshi's Island. Let's put out the DS version of Mario 64, because fuck it. Who cares anymore?
Why not?
Also, maybe something that lends credence to Twilight Princess HD actually being a remake is that Skyward Sword apparently is going to come to the Wii Virtual Console. So that is a thing. Great Zelda game. I'm sure lots of people who didn't play it will enjoy that.
I'm sure it'll come with loads of warnings saying, remember you need Wii Motion Plus and all this. And it'll be a huge faff again.
Yeah.
But...
yeah, exactly. That was a little bit of a pain. But we have Metroid Other M as well, which, you know, Bally, that's one that you have your eye on, right?
I don't know why you want me to play this game so much. It's just like, it's so far down the list on games I want to play.
Yeah. And Warland Shake It is another standout, which you have my copy of, so that will be fine. You won't need to pick any of these up, I think. But, interesting, nonetheless. Lots of good picks, I think, for the Virtual Console. Like, many weeks will go by and there'll be nothing worth my time, I feel, on the Virtual Console, but I think there's some good stuff coming up in the future. A lot of this, I think, will be American Virtual Console. Some of it will come to Europe.
And there's so much on the Virtual Console already that I still need to pick up and play that
yes,
it's just ridiculous at this point, the amount of backlog that I need to get through.
Yeah. We'll do it one day.
One day.
Yeah, I guess maybe close this out with some thoughts on things that could be coming up soon. I mean, apparently Nintendo have a maintenance update on Monday, I think the day this podcast goes out, basically. So people have rumblings that it may be to do with the DNA account system. It could have something to do with a Splatoon update. This is going to be across 3DS and Wii U, all their platforms. And I don't know, Bally, what are your thoughts? Do you think anything major will come out of this, or are people making a bit too much of a deal about it?
Who knows? I mean, it might just be, like you said, maintenance for maybe Triforce Heroes coming out, or like you said, the Splatoon update. But I mean, if this is the let's get our unified system on the go, like between Wii U and 3DS before the NX comes out or something, that could be big. But I mean, like we've already said, that'd be a bit strange without a direct if they just launch something onto us cold. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be, but it's also in keeping with what they've been doing the last couple of months. You know, when they just dropped all those release dates and everything. At the moment, I do feel like this transition period is ongoing, and they maybe still haven't figured out what they want to do with Nintendo Directs, which means that they're just dropping news via the traditional means of press releases in the way they used to do it.
Good old days, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I like the new era. I really enjoy the way they present directs and everything. So
exactly.
It does feel like going back a bit to the archaic old times. But it also means that Nintendo are more likely to kind of trickle things out. I feel like the Direct maybe hurt them in some senses because it takes a lot of oomph out of their E3 presentations if they are consistently having these
Yeah.
announcements coming throughout the year.
It-
And maybe dialing back on that and not having as many of those, or not putting as much information out there, does mean that they can kind of control their message for E3 a bit better, and maybe surprise people a bit more when it comes to that. So
Yeah. And I think if you step back and you look at 2015 so far and what's to come, I think I mean, we are the choir that they are preaching to, but I think they have done that incredibly well this year with, I mean, so many great games, Splatoon, Mario Maker, that sort of thing. I think in that sense, they're really doing with the Wii U what they want to do. They've sort of accepted, yes, we've not appealed to everyone, but those who we have appealed to, we're going to, give you some solid content. And it Triforce Heroes again, everything we've seen so far looks great about that game. It's just, yeah, like we've already said, 2016 is so up in the air. And it'd be
Yeah.
really nice if the NX did come out then. And we just we need some information. We just need some like clear official information. That would
Yeah.
be really nice.
And I mean, there have also been reports recently that DNA are very close to announcing the first mobile game. That is basically days away, if not weeks. And I am very interested to see how that goes down. Certainly, what I feel is going to be the case is that because DNA are working on the loyalty program and the integration, the mobile game will not come out until they have also put the new program out. And I think maybe it will be day and date where they're like, okay, here's this unified thing. Everything you do on Nintendo platforms and on the mobile games will be linked together. It'll be this unified account system, and it'll all work in harmony. And yeah, I feel like that will happen very soon. So maybe next episode we'll have a mobile game to talk about. I don't know, Bally. We'll see.
Here's a dumb question.
Okay.
I take it the mobile games are exclusive to mobile devices and they're not going to be on the 3DS.
Yeah, no, they are going to be iOS and Android exclusive, I believe.
Okay.
I mean, they could in the future bring them to 3DS, perhaps. They did stuff like Puzzle and Dragons being on 3DS and all that. All these Japanese mobile games.
I miss my buttons. Need some
Yeah.
buttons.
Yeah, so
Don't take buttons away from me.
they won't, Bally. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. They have a dedicated
scared.
platform for you. Codename
Okay.
NX. It's a dedicated
Okay.
video game platform.
Imagine
Don't be afraid.
the NX has no buttons.
Oh, jeez, don't. Let's not get into that. Sounds horrible.
Virtual joystick.
Oh boy. Well, Bally, I think that'll do us. That's a good bit of speculation, bit of news. Exciting times ahead. I'm just so curious. The next couple of months are going to be pretty crucial for Nintendo. The way that their mobile game does will, I think, inform a lot of what happens in the future, and it will be a time to be watching this company. I'll tell
It's
you
weird
what.
though. It's weird. Just one last point.
Yeah.
Because in the next few months, well, specifically November, we're gonna get the big, holiday titles coming out. Fallout 5. Which
Four?
Fallout is it? 4?
Four.
4? 5? 4? I'm making up games now.
Yeah.
But there's so many big holiday titles coming up, and I'm a little tentative that if they do have, whether it's a direct or some sort of news announcement, if they leave it till then, it might all get a bit drowned out, and they're kind of October is, it's the dead zone of gaming where very few games come out, and Nintendo have traditionally done directs and news announcements. So if it's feeling like it's all changed, it's all different now.
Yeah, no, they don't want to go head to head with Halo 5 and Tomb Raider.
And I'm worried they will.
Yeah, no,
We'll see.
I know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Don't worry. If no one else does, we're always here. So, Bally, that's going to close out the show for today. Where can people find you on the internet if they want to hear more of your nonsense?
Please follow all my nonsense on Twitter. My name is @Ballyman91, BALLYMAN91. I've been tweeting lots about nonsense. And also follow me on Miiverse, where I post even more about nonsense. I am the same name on there. I don't know what I'm going to play next. Probably back to a bit of Rayman. I need to finish up that game. So
Yeah, you'll have access to
check
your
that
Wii U
out.
now. So
Exactly. I've had
get on
2
the-
weeks without my Wii U. I'm going to transport all my electronic devices across on the Eurostar. So
across the ocean,
across
under the
the
sea,
ocean.
under the sea, as they say. Indeed. All right, you can find me on the Twitters. I'm at Lordnbz. Lordnbz is my Miiverse name. Again, Mario Maker stuff has kind of slowed down. I think we'll both get a bit back more into that. The Raikkoning and Patrick Klepek and Dan Reichert's nonsense has
We need
made
an equivalent of the Raikkoning between us.
it's made me like, oh, I need to play more Mario Maker. It's so good. It is so much fun. So yeah, some of that stuff will probably be happening. I also plan to play Star Fox 64 3D, which Bally you let me. Probably gonna do that next week because I'll be home for a little bit. And I'll have my handheld with me, so I think I'll focus on it for that period of time. But while I have my PC, you know, I've got to keep trucking on with this Metal Gear, this Witcher. So that's what I'll be doing. You can email us, Bally. Where can people email us at?
Please send your emails to thisnintendolife@gmail.com. We love all your emails, even the bad ones.
Yeah, we read them all. So,
We read them all.
we may not read them all on the show, but we do read them all. That'll pretty much do us. You can find us on iTunes, on Stitcher. You can subscribe and rate and review us over there. That would be the loveliest thing in the world. Please give us an iTunes review. That would mean the most things to us. YouTube, of course, as always. And yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do us for this week, Bally. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. Some more Nintendo, some more chat.
The march to 100 will continue.
It will indeed, and I'm sure it will be there before we know it. But until then, thank you all for listening. I will see you next time. Goodbye. The musical interludes used in today's show were Nuclear by Mike Oldfield, featured in the soundtrack of Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, and an a cappella cover of Midna's Lament from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess from Smooth McGroove. Alright, what do you want to say at the end?
Thank you for listening.
You have been the paramount of help today. Fucking on point.